Hi, I'm Mary Wing Soares, and we're here with our town manager, Kevin Smith, for another episode of Transparency in Government. I was explaining to the superintendent that, this is my last year, so
Right.
I'm like, I should probably get really controversial this year. Ask all kinds of questions that, nobody
is your
really
chance.
Now's my
Right,
chance,
between now and June.
That's right. So, I guess my...
Yes. Yes. Okay. with that as the segue, bring it on.
Right. No, most of the people in this town get their news from the Londonderry Times. That it goes to everybody's home, and whether we believe that those articles are well researched or biased, it is what it is. So, why does the town need a backup generator?
So I guess the history behind this is that the former police captain, Paul Falone, who was our captain up at the Manchester-Boston Airport, was also our liaison to Homeland Security. He was very much in security as his background. And so in doing his routine security analysis of the police department, both up at the airport and downtown, if you will, it was his assessment, his security assessment, that there needed to be a backup generator to the primary generator. The reason being is that should the primary generator go down for some reason, if it's struck by lightning, something unforeseen that makes it go down, essentially dispatch then is down at the police station. So it was his belief that there should be a backup system to that primary generator. Not necessarily unusual either. There are, from what I understand, other stations that have it. Most don't. Most just have a generator. But nonetheless, that was his belief. This went through the CIP committee, and it was vetted through the CIP with public hearings. It was then vetted through the planning board with public hearings. And it was made, I believe, a priority number one when it was on the CIP list, which is why it then went to warrant article. Captain Falone left last December, and in doing his, I guess, brain dump, if you will, before he was leaving, this was one of the issues where the loose ends were not tied up on it. And so that's why there was some misunderstanding when it came up during the deliberative session about what the actual need was for the backup generator. Initially, I believe the answer that was given was that the life of the current one, or it had used up most of its life, which in fact is not the case.
Right.
But if you read the rationale in the CIP report, it is what Captain Falone had been saying all along, and what then the police chief had come to explain after, which is that it was for security purposes to have a backup to the primary. But there were good questions raised in that whole
Process.
that process and researching it more. Questions about what is the useful life of the current generator, what are the chances that the current generator will actually go down in the case of an emergency. Are there grants that are available where we wouldn't have to expend all of the monies, similar to what the fire station just did in getting the grant for their generator for the new station. And so we've paused the brakes on it. The money's been appropriated. Doesn't mean we have to spend the money. And that's the thing, is that, as I've said to folks, government's supposed to work this way. Would we have liked to have had the best answer the first time? Yes, but sometimes that isn't always the case. But that's why we rely on citizens to come to the meetings. We always encourage people to come to the meetings, come to deliberative sessions, whatever, and raise these questions, because sometimes there's maybe something we overlooked and maybe hadn't fully vetted. Now, I will tell you, if Captain Falone were here, he would make a very strong case for why that backup generator is necessary. The current administration may have a different feeling about that. But nonetheless, we did pause the brakes to look at it more.
So does that mean, though, that it was $150,000, wasn't it?
I want to say so, Mary.
It was about that amount. So does that mean that that money is just sitting in your budget for year to year to year? Because it can't be used for
No.
anything else, can it?
No, if it's not purchased this fiscal year, it goes back into
The general fund.
general funds surplus, if you will. So
Okay.
it's the undesignated fund balance.
Mm-hmm.
So if that money is not spent, even though it's been appropriated, if it's not spent, which again, we don't have to spend it, it would just go back into the undesignated fund balance, which, by the way, is where it came from on the warrant article.
Right.
So it wasn't raised through taxation last year. It was money that had already been erased
Right.
that went into the surplus account.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, all of the things that we're reading in that, the generator is a certain number of years old, but it hasn't been used for a certain number of hours.
Yeah, the generator is at least 15 years old.
Right.
But it's only been, the number of hours are still relatively low on that generator because there haven't been many times where power has been lost at the police station.
But we know, though, if we, for example, have a car that's sitting there for 15 years, things are going to go bad on that car if you're not using it again and again and again.
Right, well, you have to have routine maintenance being done on that generator. And if there may be a point where the generator has to be taken off-site for maintenance work, and if that's the case,
You need a backup.
you need a backup. So there's, I believe there is an argument to be made for why you need a backup to that primary generator at a place like a police station. You don't, I wouldn't say you don't need a backup at town hall. We have a generator, which, by the way, the generator we have is nowhere near as powerful as the police or fire. Our generator basically keeps the lights on, but we can't do business with it. But we're not necessary that if there's an emergency, town hall doesn't necessarily need to be open. Police and fire have to be. So that's why there's an argument to be made for it. We haven't come to a final conclusion, but as I said, we did pause the brakes and are studying it more to make a determination.
Yeah. Well, and the fire department, though, just did get a new one?
They did as part of their reconstruction there.
And is that a backup or is that a
That is
new
no.
one?
That will be their primary generator. Yeah,
Okay. All right.
correct.
And what had they depended on before, or did they not have one at all?
They did not have a backup. Police
did
and
they have
fire
any?
have always had. Oh yeah, they've had a generator,
Oh, okay.
sure, but their generator had gone through its useful life. It was a much older generator, and it wasn't going to power the needs for the new facility.
Right.
Yeah.
So another thing that's happening right now is, I know I'm on the planning board, so we had a discussion the other night about some new senior housing that's coming in. And they were mentioning that they felt that they're finding that niche of affordability, comparatively speaking, when we see people that are going into Cross Farms, those homes are, 450 and higher. They're very, very expensive. And you're going from a 4-bedroom to a 3-bedroom or a 2-bedroom, but you're still paying the same amount of money. So these guys were trying to come in with that kind of an idea. On Sanborn Road, we are supposed to be having affordable senior housing, and I understand that it is based on the median income, 60% of the median income of our area, but those people who can afford $1,200 or $1,100 are finding those apartments other places. It's the people who need $700 apartments and $800 apartments that we don't seem to be servicing.
Right.
Is there anything that we can do as a town to figure that out?
I think the answer is our hands are more or less tied as a town for what kind of rents or what kind of sale prices are going to be on houses for seniors. I mean, let's start with rental properties, in the way of apartments. The affordable senior project at Sanborn Road, it's dictated by the federal government for the rents that have to be charged there, because those are federal monies that are passed through the state, then are then passed on to the developer. It's not subsidized housing in the way that we used to think about how a person gets a subsidy and then they have to live in a certain development that accepts that subsidy. The way it's done now is there's tax credits that are given to the developer But at the same time, because the federal government is giving those tax credits out, they then dictate what the rental prices are to that developer, and that's based on the geographic location of where the development is.
Okay.
We're in Rockingham County. That works against us to try to have rents that are $700 and $800. And I understand people on fixed incomes, those are the kind of rents that they need. $1,100 and $1,200 is still not in their mind affordable. It's more affordable than what the market rates are right now, which are $1,400, $1,500, $1,600, unless you're at Woodmont Commons and it's over $2,000.
Yeah.
So it's more affordable than that, but at the same time, that's something that is dictated through the federal government. It's dictated through New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority. So the town can't dictate rental prices there, especially on those affordable projects. Same thing with workforce housing. That's set, again, through the federal government and the state, what the developers charge, the owners charge for those particular rents.
But that's the same thing. It's same 60% of the median income. So workforce and affordable, they're interchangeable.
Sure.
You know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, with new construction, that's, the cost of materials is expensive. So there is a floor for what a developer is going to turn around and sell it for. The big question is how much of a margin are they looking for, In the case of the ones that you guys heard at the planning board, that development will probably, some of the bells and whistles that may be over at Cross Farm or the one that's just up the road from there probably won't be in this development because they've got to cut their costs somewhere in order to still make a profit from the homes they're selling. And I appreciate the fact that they're trying to sell them at a price point that is not close to $500,000, which is what it seems like all new construction is going for. But at the same time, cost of materials, everything, we need to have regulations. I'm not saying that at all. We have density regulations, setback regulations, street width regulations, but all of these things cost money along the way. It's an undeniable fact. So they look at their profit margins and say, okay, how many houses can we get in here? If our price point is going to be, say, $350,000, then what are the things we're cutting out from this in order to still make a healthy profit on it? Because the cost of materials is so expensive right now. Londonderry, and this is my last point, we're in a reval year right now, revaluation. And we've put out information about this to get people ready for when they see their values. And I don't want to say see their tax bills, because some people's tax bills are going to go down from what they paid last year. But everybody's going to see their valuation has gone way up. Everyone. Because we were way below market value in Londonderry. Such that, so it's been 5 years. So our last revaluation was in 2014. Think about what the market's done between 14 and 19.
Right.
I mean, it's just not unusual today for homes to be selling over $500,000 in this town. That was never the case before.
Right.
Most new construction, though, is going for that amount.
Right.
And even older homes are going in the high fours. Colonials, 3 and 4 bedroom colonials are So and that's great news, by the way. The market's doing great in Londonderry.
Right.
But that means new construction's going way up,
Right.
and values on existing homes are going way up as well. So it's going to be. I know my home, I think it was $354 prior to the reval, and now it's assessed at $435 around there. So that's a significant increase. But it's a colonial, and most colonials are going to see between 20 and 25%. Of their value is going to go up.
Right.
So.
And though, to your point, that doesn't necessarily mean their tax bill is going to go up.
Right.
Because we've had so much additional industrial coming in, industry coming in.
Yeah, I mean, so the tax rate's going to go down. There's no question. So, but again, even with the tax rate going down, that doesn't mean your taxes are necessarily going to go down. It all depends, because not every home went up by the same value. You know, if you're in a ranch, your home value went up less than, say, a colonial went up, and that's just based on sales.
Sure.
So, you know, as I've told people, what you really want to compare is what did you pay last year in taxes versus what did you pay this year. You know, don't necessarily look at the value, don't look at the tax rate, look at the actual amount. It's the dollars that match.
Right.
I mean, that count.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. One of the things that I've noticed over the 20 years that I've been here is that, well, since the library was built, the steps have to be replaced or fixed almost every single year. Why do we still continue to put the same material in there? Why
We used a different material this time. We did.
Okay, what are we using now?
Well, I don't know.
It's still concrete,
yeah,
right?
it is concrete still. Well, the options are somewhat limited, but you know, because Steve Cotton and I had this conversation when they were being replaced, and I said the same thing. It seems like we're always replacing these steps. So I think we used a different bonding material this time when we did it.
Because you're not replacing the ones in front of the town hall or the back of the town hall.
Not at this time. Right. Oh, no.
No, you
you're
haven't.
Right. No, we haven't.
Since you've done that business.
Right.
And seriously, the library, it's like every year.
Right. Yep.
So are they too wide? Are they not, you know, is there?
I don't have a good answer for it, Mary. I'm sure there is. I don't know why they seem prone to fall apart more often than they should. But I do know that the material we used this time, you know, was a better, as I said, a better bonding material that hopefully will won't have to be replaced for some time.
I hope so.
Yeah.
It'll be nice to see,
It would.
you know, people not having to walk around all the time because that's what's happening. Town Common is getting to be redone. I mean, how far along are we, and when do you expect that to be finished?
Well, I just put some pictures up on Facebook today. It's complete. The drainage project is complete. It's been hydroseeded, so now we just need grass to grow. So what we've asked is for people to stay off the town common until that grass is established, obviously. We're supposed to get some rains this week that'll help. You know, with any luck, we'll still be able to have Santa and Mrs. Claus on the common.
That would be fun.
Come December. We certainly wouldn't want to have to move that. But at the same time, we got to make sure the grass is established there. But it's a project.
Hopefully you'll have enough snow that it wouldn't matter. They could just
That would be great.
You know?
Yeah, that would be
bring
great.
their sleigh in and just, you know.
Even better. But it's, you know, it's something that had to be done, and you know, it looks like they did a great job with it, and obviously we'll be waiting now to see how the water drains now that it's in.
Right.
But hopefully long gone are the days where it becomes a, you know,
Swimming
slush pit out there. So.
I read that the Tennessee gas pipeline is being repaired in different places along the way. Is that the pipeline that's behind the school?
Correct.
Do you know?
Yes, that's the pipeline that goes all the way to the gas power plant up in the north section of town. Yeah.
So
I don't know if they're replacing sections. I saw the notice as well. We put it up. I know that the markers that are there, it sounded like they're replacing those. I'm not sure if they're actually replacing actual pipe at this time.
Or are they just checking to make sure everything's good?
From what I understand, it's a routine maintenance that they're doing, and I know it did say they are checking the markers that are, you know, along that whole path that mark out where the pipeline is.
All right.
Yeah.
And then finally, I wanted to talk to you about the charter change. Are you all considering putting a warrant article on to approve a charter change for you as well?
Yeah, we haven't discussed it yet. So it hasn't come up in public discussion for the town. What I do know is we will have that discussion. I don't know what direction the council is going to want to go in with it. Yeah, but it's something that we will end up discussing.
Did you feel that it was a difficult sell having the additional budget that other monies that were on there last year?
Difficult, no, but certainly we had to explain it a bunch of times on why there was this item called a supplemental budget. My concern is that with the supplemental budget, it's not like only default things have to go in there. There's a good and bad to it. One is there are other cost items that could go into that beyond the normal default items that would have been in the default budget. For instance, let's say you wanted to purchase a vehicle. You could put that into, vehicle's a bad one because we have capital vehicle accounts.
Capital, yeah.
But if you wanted to add a position, you could put that into the supplemental budget even though it may not have been in default. The other part of that though is, in future years, if this is something that stays on the warrant going forward, does it become less of what it was intended for, which was to still only put those default items in, and become more of a, what are other items that we want to put in this supplemental budget that are beyond what would have just been in default. And I wouldn't want to see that get out of control.
Do you think that the intent of the legislature was to be so that towns would be more transparent?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
and do you think
keep in mind it wasn't the legislature; it was the courts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a legislator who brought the matter to court, and the courts ruled that this is the way it had to be done. But it was the intent of the legislator who brought it to court to have more transparency. In how things are budgeted. So, that was the idea behind it.
So do you think we've been hiding things for years and years and years, not having it this way?
No.
Do you think we haven't tried to explain to people that when you vote, here there's 2 other years and that's going to increase in that? But, that's on the regular budget. But
no, I don't think things have been hidden. I don't think things haven't been explained. I think we've always done that. I think we've always explained what's in the default, how the default is made up, what are the items go into it. What it has allowed municipalities to do is, because it's not black, the default budget is not black and white, there's a lot of gray, right? And so, let me bring up a potential controversial item. The lease on the school district, right? So that was put into the default budget because that contract was signed prior to the proposed budget going to the people. And that was all transparent. That was all out in the open. People had an opportunity to speak up about that. Should that happen that way? I don't know. That's a question for somebody else to decide whether or not you should have to vote on that separately, or if it should be allowed to be done like that into the default budget. And again, there wasn't anything that was not transparent about it. It all was explained out in the open. But you could make an argument that an item like that should be voted on separately and not within the confines of the default budget. So I think that's more of the question. I think it's less of the transparency. Again, it's all in black and white. It's all on paper.
Right.
And anytime Mary, you've been to all of the deliberative sessions. Anytime the default budget comes up for discussion, there's very little questions. There's very little debate on it, and it may be because people are overwhelmed by a $30 million budget, a $70 million budget, that they just. It's easier to concentrate on the smaller ticketed items because you
feel like you have some control over that.
Sure, right. Rather than starting off, and look, the biggest cost items in your default budget are salaries and health insurance. Right. So if you're really looking to make a dent in that, if you were to say, if you had someone that said, well, we need to decrease this budget by X percent, that's where you're going to make the biggest changes in your personnel.
So speaking of the school district office, what's happening with the Clam Shack?
Well, now you see it, now you don't, because it's coming down.
When is it coming down? Because like most people expected
Yep.
July 1st it would be gone.
Yep. It will be down, well, let's see, today's October, what are we on?
7th.
7th. It will be down before October 20th.
Okay.
As of this show, it should be down this week.
Right.
There's just been a lot of disconnections going on in there that had to be made between that building and Town Hall, that building and the schools, a lot of wires and everything. That all has to be disconnected before you can actually rip the building down. But it will be down before the snow flies. It'll be down in a couple of weeks.
So are you waiting until the spring to start building though, or are you going to try?
That is the intent. Yeah,
Okay.
the intent would be to wait until the spring to erect a new building next to it. That will tie into Town Hall. Yeah.
Okay. Are you do you think you need the extra space? Are you looking forward to the extra space?
Oh, the extra space is definitely needed. There's no question about that. Especially with storage space. I mean, we are required, even though a lot of our stuff is electronic, we're also required to keep paper copies of plans. And if you go into the building department, the planning department, they're busting at the seams, and we do utilize off-site storage, but it'll be nice to take some of that stuff from off-site that we're paying for and move it
Bring it
over
back.
into storage that's next to Town Hall, makes those files readily available too. And just with the addition of staff over the last 5 years, there's not a whole lot of space left now at Town Hall.
Okay.
So looking forward to that. Aesthetically, that building's an eyesore. So it'll be nice just to have it down.
Right. Right. All right. Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming.
Are we at the end already?
Well, yeah, we
Holy
are.
smokes. That went quick. I'm trying to think if there's anything
Was there anything you
I want
wanted
to
to?
add. I don't know. The Lancers are 5-0. Lancer
I know, I
football is
think that's
5-0.
wonderful.
That's very exciting.
It is.
So hopefully that continues to go.
I know you're not, well, I mean, you're involved with the Mac Black in that you are a sports fan in this town. And right now we're tipped on the
Right.
lower end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But chair might be able to tie it up, and tell you what, a tie is better than a loss. And it's been a long time
Yeah.
since
we
we
have
haven't.
a good cheer group, so
Yeah.
it should be.
Should be very good.
Yep.
Probably a very well-attended chair competition this
Really?
year in November.
Right.
So.
Well, I was very excited to see how well behaved everybody was at the Pinkerton Lancer game.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
over the years, there's been a little bit, but generally, especially when it's off-site, there's sometimes there's stuff. But
Yeah.
of course, we were winning this year, so we had nothing to be unhappy about.
Makes it even better.
Yes, it does. All right, and I'm glad you finally got that corrected headline.
Oh, tell me about it.
Yeah.
I know. I said I wasn't going to take it down until they finally actually did win.
Right.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank
Kevin.
you,
I
Mary.
appreciate you
Thanks for having
coming.
me on. Sure.
Yeah. This has been Mary Wing Soares and Transparency in Government. Until next time.